Big warning for you today, guys. Did you know that China is taking over the car market? I mean, it's crazy. There's like 3 cars in Forza Horizon 6. There's like 2 Chinese cars from one manufacturer in Gran Turismo 7. These Chinese cars, ugh, I can't stand them. It's not kind of the direction I'm going today. No, I'm actually going to be talking about going on the internet and finding this. This video has kind of surfaced again recently. I had a tweet pop off with this, but this is essentially Yang Wang, the car that's in Gran Turismo, just breaking the speed record, just like that. And apparently this is quite an old achievement. I had no idea that they actually did this. But anyway, I got some mixed responses over on Twitter because, of course, it's Twitter. And so I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a, I wouldn't say deep dive, but a dive into that world, just a little bit, just for this video. It's interesting. First things first, I think the most important piece of information I could probably give you about the UK is March top selling cars, most registered cars. So this is brand new cars that were bought in March. The numbers look incredibly tiny because this is the UK. Hey, but it's like we're one state of the United States, and this is very important. It's a very big state, to be clear. We got lots of. Anyway, the JQ7 is the most registered car, closely followed, to be fair, by the Puma, the Qashqai, Sportage, Corsa. Corsa's in there. One thing that I do want to kind of point at, and this is pretty noticeable, I mean, looking at the Golf, the Model 3, which also had a decrease recently because of, you know, Elon Musk, the BMW 1 Series. In this list is an insane amount of hatchbacks, and the car manufacturers and whatever will tell you that, people don't want to buy hatchbacks. Clearly, this is just not the case. These are the only hatchbacks that exist on the pissing market at this point, so that's the only reason they're not there, but that's sort of side tangent. JQ is a Chinese Range Rover. It looks like a Range Rover, except it's cheap, and the finance deals are just like the European ones, basically like 0% bloody. Therefore, it was at the top of the list. Now, I think in the later one, it actually kind of was dethroned by the Puma. The Puma, again, just has incredible finance deals. Now, while the JQ is not BYD, BYD is literally everywhere. It may just be slightly off the chart, and it is the Chinese brand that basically seems to have the most cars, like a lot of variation, and I see them quite a lot. Actually, to be fair, I see them more than the JQ. Who is buying these JQs? For God's sake, look at them. So what the hell does this video have to do with Canary Wharf? In case you didn't know, Canary Wharf is our financial district. It's where the businessmen go to work and earn lots of money doing banking and banking adjacent things. Big money, office workers, suits, ties. Anyway, what I wanted to do is showcase to you, there's actually 2 dealerships inside, which is also already weird initially, dealerships inside the shopping center. That just doesn't happen here. Our shopping centers are usually small, and this one is like underground. So what the hell, car dealership underground? How are you gonna get the car out? But anyway, there's only 2 dealerships in this location, and one of which is BYD, and I kind of wanted to show you because it kind of made me think, Americans don't see these cars. They have no idea what they're like. They've never seen them, and in case you didn't know, most of my audience is American. Oh, and the other dealership, JLR. There's Jaguar, Land Rover, but no Jaguar because Jaguar doesn't have a car. They've had no car for sale for like 2 years now. Land Rover does have cars. And everyone knows about bloody Range Rover. Can't stand them. Disgusting. Yes, we've gotten to that portion of the video. So I went into the dealership and went undercover and decided to film and explore a little bit. Now, I've actually been in here maybe a couple times. Since I walked past a few times, it was kind of inviting. In fact, I think they often do more inviting opening to the store, a lot more than the Range Rover one does. It's a lot more welcoming. I feel like less pressure, and the stuff are really nice, and they leave you alone if you just want to look at the cars, and you know, they've worked in dealerships before probably. Anyway, I do want to show you their kind of range throughout the store. I have an absolute favorite looking model. That would be the Seal, the BYD Seal. I think they have really odd names, to be clear. But also, the Volkswagen Rabbit existed in America, so I don't think we can really... I mean, Seals are cool. Sea Lions? Anyway, the Seal is probably the highlight for me. It's really nice looking. A lot of people say it kind of looks Porsche-esque, which would maybe explain as to why I like it, similar to like the Panamera. This model in particular, actually quite affordable. It's not crazy expensive, and I think that's the main reason as to why these cars are super popular. Most people don't care about cars in the same way that we would. Cars to us are kind of like personality, you know, the same way people dress in a certain way or buy a certain brand of clothes, or they make their whole personality about how they have an iPhone and their Android friends are weird because they use WhatsApp or whatever. Cars are that to us, and they're a statement piece. I mean, it's the second most expensive purchase that you will make in your lifetime, most of the time, you know, buying a house, hopefully, because, you know, this is a little difficult these days. But point is, I really like this car. I think it's actually a really nice car, and if I was in the market for something that is basically the Panamera, except I didn't need the purpose of the towing, which is the main reason I don't have a Taycan, whatever, I would actually seriously consider this car. There is also other variants of the car, and the most popular ones that are kind of aligned is usually the SUVs and usually the little tiny Dolphin, I think it's called. It's just funny. But anyway, I thought it would be a really cool opportunity to walk around, show you, almost like, it's weird, but humanize the experience, because in a lot of the world, and, you know, more so the United States side of things and the Western side of things, these things are kind of hidden. You don't see them. It's in the same way of when people go to Japan. They go there not just to explore Japan. They want to know a different way. And the fact that the internet allows us to do this, and my audience is mostly the US, I thought it would kind of just be a cool little way to humanize these cars. They're just like any other cars. They are all EVs, and that's where the differences kind of are. They are super aggressively priced, and they align with the push that the UK government is doing. There's a UK government push to make people buy electric cars. That's why the Taycan, for example, usually a 100 grand plus Porsche, absolutely flooded the market to the point where they're going to probably cease it and combine it with the Panamera and call it the Panamera, because the price, you could get a Panamera for like 30, 40 grand used, just like couple years old, makes 0 sense, but it's absolutely possible to do. And so the government subsidizes these things. If you're on like disability, you can also get like a mobility help with some of these vehicles. Generally happens to be on the cheaper vehicles that you can get access to, because it's, you know, the idea is the government will help you get into something to improve emissions, be able to say, we got our emissions down based on people buying these new cars. And if people are buying new cars, you may as well consider this if you're not someone that generally really is into cars. And being real, in the future, every low model car should be an EV. That's my opinion. I don't think it makes sense for someone like a granny, okay? A granny walks into a dealership. Granny wants a big car because she says, oh, it's easier to get in and out of. And the dealership says, oh yeah, it's definitely easier to get in and out of. Granny has been lied to already, okay? Granny's been lied to already. You should see the old boys that get out of the old Jags and stuff. Little old Granny would prefer her car to not do a big loud grumble every time the thing starts. What does she care, or he care, Granddad, that the car makes a noise? No one gives a damn, because the alternative as to what they probably would have bought anyway, and I've been saying this for the longest time, is very likely going to be a crappy CVT 3-cylinder car that just sounds like ass and doesn't move anywhere. It does not move at all. In every other way then, the EV is more efficient. It emits less, meaning great. They don't have to go to the petrol station. They're encouraged even to buy solar panels and like improve their quality of life. Their cost of living would go down because of the fact that they're buying an EV and it's super cheap to charge, and hopefully they won't need to buy another. Like, the people that genuinely use their cars as just a tool, that don't give a damn what their car is, this electrification makes so much sense. It's like how, for example, cycle lanes and buses and trains, I'm all massively for, and we need them everywhere because it means more road for people that want to use their car when they need to use their car, which most of the time you might be surprised to know is not often. I like to use the car when I want to use the car. I like to use everything else when I want to use it. So this is a good white goods, okay? Once again, just to be clear, it's like a washing machine or like a dishwasher. White goods. they look like them as well. I was actually filming some B-roll over a bridge to just get an idea of the car. I only spotted one Chinese car, to be clear. I may have missed a few, but I only saw one. But what I did see, which I think is absolutely worse, is I saw nothing. Okay, not nothing, but very close to nothing. But bloody white and black cars. When did we become so boring? That is the real horrible I cannot stand it. That's the worst thing. Everything else is fine. Most people should buy an EV. I should buy the petrol cars. Unless, you know, I was just using something to get around town. I'd probably buy an EV. Like, I would consider it. I'm not against it. And anyone that doesn't buy a Tesla, good. That's great. Little fun one, actually. I'd never even heard of BYD until like 2 years ago. I'd absolutely just never seen one. I was living not in London, but fellow knobhead Corey actually visited from New Zealand, and he was like, have you ever heard of this brand, BYD? They're bloody everywhere. And I was like, no. Absolutely never. In New Zealand, and I'm guessing Australia, they've already had so many of these vehicles that they like just, because they're just incredibly close. In case you didn't know, New Zealand and Australia actually get quite a lot of like Japanese cars. But of course, it's just near Asia. So, you know, the rest of them as well. But then the new buses started to come to London and, well, surprise, surprise, pretty much all of them are BYD because we're going for EV buses. Because that's a good idea. Ain't no one say, oh, mate, that bus, do you know what? It's great, but at the same time, it's electric, so it doesn't make a big diesel disgusting noise. No one ever. Just doesn't happen. Yeah, back in my day, mate, what happened was the bus just stopped for a minute and then went shh and scared loads of grannies nearby and it fucking stank. I miss them days, I do. I want them back. Bring it back. Yeah, mate, electrification of trains, I can't stand it. It's woke nonsense. If anyone's hearing this, they're gonna think I'm absolutely mental. I promise, I'm only a little bit mental. Apartmental. So, it's all well and good having very cheap cars available to consumers that generally benefit everyone. I could argue about the weight, and, you know, because of the extra weight, the tire and brakes emissions and things like that. There are many intricate things to get into, but the idea is, long term, most people, in my opinion, having an EV kind of makes sense. But you can't really dance around the fact of the politics of cars. And this could be the case with anyone. I mean, the reason the world is being taken over by biggins and deaths for road accidents are on the way up in, you know, mostly America, but soon to be everywhere else, is the embiggification, the embiggening, as I would like to call it. There's a lot to be said there, and those are things I may dive into at a later date. However, let's be real, especially with a US-based audience, your image of China has kind of already been formed, and, you know, your opinion on them is so, and I cannot change that opinion, but, you know, most of the things you buy electronics-wise, we play games, most of the stuff you buy is made in China, and if it's not, very close by. But anyway, I'm going to go as light as possible on the politics side of things, because, again, I'm not going to be able to change your opinion, but I do think the model is different, very, very different than that of the US, UK, the rest of the European Union. Okay, say the rest. We can't say the rest anymore. I don't know anywhere near enough to just give this solid, bulletproof, like, but the overall benefit of their model is to benefit the country as a whole. The way that China, as I know, works, they use a capitalist system to make money in other markets to bring in, and the government then funds further projects in a big way. It kind of has a central part in where normally governments usually create regulations to keep people safe as the only thing in the Western world. But anyway, the overall intent is that so the benefit of the country is the benefit of the government, which is a benefit to the people. That's kind of how I understand it. So the government is a funding machine for these Chinese EVs. They do a lot of the groundwork and a lot of the heavy lifting to kind of get it going. But you could argue that they could have done that for a really long time. Why is it only now, since EVs are a thing, that people are now worried about it? No one before bought Chinese cars. Now they're ahead of the game. The governments of the world are very, very scared. But I hope with the idea that they're selling all of those goods to the rest of us, the intent is to bring that money in and improve the life for the people that are, say, working on making those cars. That's kind of what I would like to see, and then what I hope the situation is like. But it's not dissimilar to the idea of the really aggressive 0% finance. For example, if you looked at the breakdown of let's say a Ford Puma, okay? The car itself, every dealership you go into, they will do their best to try and get you to buy the finance deal, because the finance deal is where they make the money. And they make the money because in the UK, we have a model known as PCP. Not to be confused with, you know, the other. Basically, PCP is a finance deal where you don't actually pay off the car. The intent is for you to never pay off the car. You place a deposit on the car, you pay a monthly fee, and at the very end, there's something called a balloon payment. And this balloon payment is the guaranteed future value of the car. When you get to this point, most people will give the car back, get a new one, and usually, to be fair, they then give you a couple of grand to buy the car because you get the difference between what you haven't paid and the guaranteed future value that they assume it is market rate and blah, blah. Anyway, you take that couple of grand and you are locked into that dealership. And so the intent is after that 2, 3, 4, 5-year contract, what you'll do is you'll stay with that dealership, because you cannot jump between brands. You could probably jump between dealerships, but the brands usually want to lock you in. The reason it makes big money is because you're paying $2, $3, $4, $1,000 a month for the rest of time. And I say dollars just to, you know, but there's also a very similar model to the US. The US essentially invented this model. No one really financed their cars when I was growing up, but now everyone finances their car and they spend hundreds of pounds a month on it, which is just, it's crazy. Anyway, with these models, how does Ford do 0% finance? How does, I don't know, Volkswagen do 0% finance? If you go on these websites, they all still, even though with the elevator, we got to like, what, 5% base interest rates for basically everything very recently. We're now at like 3%. But the reason they can still do 0% is because they are paying. They themselves are discounting the cars and basically paying for those cars to lock you in. I feel that there would be a little bit of hesitation if you went into a dealership and said, I would like to buy the car outright. That would be very, like, they would lose money on that. It's not worth it for the dealership. It's not worth it for Ford. It's not worth it for anyone. They want to lock you in. So if all Chinese cars, European cars, American cars, they all have this discount process to try and incentivize you to buy the vehicle at a discounted rate so that they dominate the market, how is it really any different if the main difference is the government is doing this opposed to private financial companies that are then pocketing that money? I'm supposed to think it's very different and very wrong. If you want my genuine opinion, and this, you know, may change and alter, but of my opinion, it is always, always better to buy within your means, okay? Buy something a little bit old, okay? Doesn't even have to be old. It could be a few years old. For example, my Porsche is a 2017. It's almost a decade old, but basically has nothing different compared to the one as of today. So I saved like over 100 grand on that car. I did not have to pay it. I have paid it off. I now plan to run the damn thing into the ground because it's a fantastic car and I don't know if I could find any better for the money. So whether you have a petrol car, an EV, in my opinion, you should just try and run the damn thing into the ground. That is so much more cool and like exciting and interesting than, say, for example, the people that constantly, the other thing that really bothers me about EV people is like, oh yeah, I'll buy an EV to save the environment. And then they buy a new car every 3 years. You are not helping anything. That doesn't help anything. That's besides the point. That's not helpful to anyone. Stop buying crap for crap's sake. And you can tell this is not a video sponsored by BYD because, you know, just like everyone else, they really want you to buy a new car, new registration, new car, buy a new car. Because, my friends, that's how it works. They want you to waste your money and your car constantly. You know, I said I wouldn't really get very political. That wasn't political. I didn't say which I prefer or which is wrong and which is right. I just said it's different, but also kind of the same. Let's summarize here. In my head, we've got the positives that the cars are more affordable. You know, they are absolutely doing incredible work to make cars more affordable. And in places where, you know, you need a car to actually exist, those places also exist in the UK. So America more so, bringing a cheap car that's also super efficient to the market just kind of makes sense. Anyway, more car variation. Surprisingly, I would say I can find in a dealership, these Chinese dealerships, I can generally find a car of every type, maybe 2 SUVs, but then you've got a hatchback and you've got the sedan or saloon or the wagons. They basically have one platform and everything incorporated within that platform. So everything shape-wise it's just the same. It's all the same stuff, which means that you get a choice of a certain vehicle. The reason we're losing hatchbacks, by the way, is the new aggressive emissions regulations from Europe, which, you know, we buy cars from. And so they're kind of making it impossible to make a small economical car that's not an EV. So I think that's a really big class that definitely is coming back soon based on EVs coming. And honestly, a little nippy like EV sounds really good to get around town. EVs for the majority are just better for the planet. That's another good point. And of course, competition. We've never really had China take on anything before. It's a new entry into the market, and they're here to play the game just like everyone else has. They're trying to sell us new cars constantly, and there's so many things like they try to block them or put tariffs on Chinese cars, and so what they did is they set up a factory in Europe that, you know, then produces those cars there and avoids the tariff. Does that help the European economy? It does. So they're playing by the rules. They're just kind of doing it. Negative sides. We have to be fair and balanced here. The model does force Western governments to interfere, and generally what they do is they increase the costs of those vehicles, making it more expensive, therefore competition. You know, those discounts then I guess go on hopefully to subsidizing the other cars, which I guess that maybe they do in the UK, but you know, most of the places they don't. Or further, like in the US, they just ban them. So if the idea is to make everything cheaper and make everything more efficient over time, and that's the model of the world, right? They want to make things cheaper and more efficient over time. America just like, no. And the also other negatives that we could lose some of the smaller car brands, the car manufacturers, as sub-brands of brands and things like that. But that's kind of always been the case. And, you know, when I went into the dealership recently, with the BYD one specifically, although they normally have like a very cheap model option, it did seem like, for the most part, they actually were trying to sell their more expensive versions with like extra options and things like that were pretty comparable to, well, cheaper petrol cars. So things aren't just set in stone at this point, and they're not fully taken over. You've got 10,000 JQs, yes, but everything else underneath is just from all over the planet. And that's the thing that I really enjoy about this. We're gonna have more options. This is going to drive competition in a very different way than we've seen before. And overall, ultimately, I think this is kind of a good thing. Now, question, Theo, would you buy one? As I said, I kind of like the seal. Right now, I'm going to drive my car into the ground. But in the future, I wouldn't be opposed to a seal. It's kind of cool. It's kind of nice. If BYD want to lend me one for a while, I will say yes. And I'll give you the full experience of it. Also, just wanted to say, based on the BYD seal, a lot of people say it kind of looks Porsche-esque. I would actually say it looks really, really close to the ID.7 from Volkswagen. They look practically the same, other than like the front bumper and the rear bumper styling. I think the BYD looks nicer, but it also does a better job at like hiding the batteries. We have gone through the route of making cars, I say we as in Europe, really tall. Like a lot of the sedans that are coming out now, they don't hide the batteries. They just make the car tall. Whereas the Chinese cars are doing a really good job at hiding the batteries, and that is so much better. Can we stop the embiggening of all cars? All of them, hatchbacks and everything. Stop it! All in all, I just find it kind of interesting. It's a very different world to what we've kind of known. I mean, we've over here have had many, many cars for so long. We've had bloody French cars taken over, and then British cars that are not British, they're actually French. And we've had tons of Japanese cars. We've had Korean cars really just blow up the last few years, just kind of like how that is in America. Korean cars are just absolutely everywhere. But it's new, it's interesting, and I'm kind of curious about it. So anyway, this is why I've had a little, would you call it a deep dive, or would you call it just like a man standing in front of a camera in a really, really cool place, by the way? How insane is this? This is London. This is a very small part of London. London's cool. I love London. I love new stuff. It's interesting. And if this type of content interests you, I've got another channel, and this channel kind of does deep dives on, well, it will do deep dives on a whole bunch of stuff like this. Car-related ones, you're in the right place.